Cilla is a rising small musician in many different genres and recently returned to music after a slight hiatus with her hyperpop song. Today, I had the chance to interview Cilla about her music, goals, pirates, and more. Make sure to like and subscribe since we're nearing 600 subscribers, and question timestamps are below as usual. Enjoy the interview. Who are you and where may people know you from?
My actual name is Priscilla, and I go by I feel like I go by a couple different names now. Originally, I always go by Cilla, which is my music name, and right now I'm streaming on Twitch, and I go by Cilly or Cilla or cillyduck.
How would you describe your vibe in 3 words?
Oh my gosh, that's such a good question though. My vibe in 3 words, I would say hobo, maybe loud, and first thing I'm thinking of, pirate. That's just what my core is.
Am I allowed to ask for more description on what pirate consists of?
Mine mainly is from the aesthetic that I like going for, how I dress up wise, kind of thing. But I like to think of I love how crazy pirates are. I feel like that's mainly why. I just love you don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
Unique.
I feel like I'm just all over the place. Yes, unique. I don't know. I've always just loved the general aesthetic of a pirate. So I feel like for me, I'm just yeah, why not pirate?
In terms of music, who are your inspirations? Do you have anyone that you listen to and that was an inspiration for a song or?
Yes, for ever since I was younger, I feel like I've always been a fan of Lady Gaga. So absolutely obsessed with her. For a more recent artist is Chappell Roan. So a lot of my closer knit community knows that I love Chappell Roan. Aside from her, lately I've been listening to a lot of Gwen Stefani. So I like a lot of their sound, and I also have a lot of inspo from 80s artists specifically too. I feel like that's kind of the thing that shaped what I'm making that more so now. But there's just a lot I haven't released yet, but it's a lot of good stuff that are to come. So
how would you describe that aesthetic? What's the word you think of in relation to those artists?
I feel bold. All of those artists have very bold, they're very iconic. Yeah, kind of pirate, honestly. I think they all do in their own way have, it's giving pirate, and I'm kind of obsessed with it. Gaga, obviously, everybody knows how big and bold Gaga is with all of her looks and all of her music, and she's always been that way. And that's so inspiring for me and so many different artists because she's always been herself. Has never been afraid to just try something crazy. And I think that's great to see because if more people were doing stuff like that, nobody would be afraid to try the things that they're doing in music. Very distinct voices as well.
Why did you start making music? Has that passion or reason persisted throughout, or do you kind of have new reasons now for wanting to do music?
Since I was younger, yeah, I was honestly one of the only people in my family who found out they could sing. So that was a weird thing to figure out, kind of not entirely on my own, but it was in a way oh, I can do this thing. But I don't really have coaches in my family or other people who have sung. So it was my mom who was the one who was really passionate about it. It was oh my gosh, we gotta put you into singing lessons. So I did the whole standard, oh, I'm going to singing lessons. I did talent shows. And so I've always was just told oh, you're gonna be you just gotta keep going. And I think that was really good for me to know and always look back on, because then there's always times where I'm oh, am I even doing this for myself anymore, or am I just doing this just because people are telling me to? But I think that's also a good motivation, is to have people support you through that. At first it was just my voice, and the longer I was out of vocal lessons though is when I actually was able to find my own ground for myself and my own way of how I wanted to sound, because lessons usually you're perfected. They're usually trying to make you sound a certain way, and that can lead to so many things. There's Broadway singing, which is a whole different thing, and that's the whole point of Broadway singing is to be perfect, and you're taught this way. So I think because I was slipping more into that when I was doing theater, I was trying to get out of that because I didn't want to be put in a certain box. The longer I was by myself, I was oh, I'm gonna just work on myself, I'm gonna listen to these artists. One day I was I'm just gonna try. I was 14 at the time, definitely on GarageBand at the time, and I just kind of made something, and I was wait, I can make a song. I figured out that I was a lot better at the songwriting part than I was the producing, but it was somewhere. And then from there I was I need to continue doing this because I also just really love performing. So that's kind of my end goal, is I really just want to perform.
Do you have any piece of advice that you received, in terms of, you mentioned doing talent shows and anything, is there any moment or thing you heard that really stuck with you through all that?
Oh, actually, yeah. There was a time where I sang for like a Christmas type of like, because of my vocal coach, we had like these little performances that she'd have us do with like all of her students. So I had one where it was like a Christmas one, and I was, how old was I at the time? Maybe I was like 10 or like 10. I was like 10 to 12. That was my age range, and I was put like towards the end because mine was a more like ballady type of song. It wasn't like a, because most of the kids sang like Jingle Bells, like any of those range, any Christmas songs. But I was the type where I like doing ballads at the time. So when I was younger, I was doing a lot of like belting, and at that time I was listening to a lot of Adele too. The song called like The First Noel, and that was very like a nerve-wracking performance for me. But it was a very it was a big shift because everyone was doing very like happy songs, very upgoey songs, and then I was just here with a very dramatic ballad as a kid. And when I did that performance, at the end of it, there was like an older man watching, I guess, and he told my dad, he was like, tell her she should never like stop singing, like to never stop. So hearing that from someone, I was like, oh.
What would you say your step-by-step process is for a song? Do you think it differs from a full-time artist? Or how would you say differs?
I feel like, yeah, because I know with like artists that are obviously signed to like big labels, they're being told like, oh, you're signed to a contract, here you have to drop these 2 albums, blah blah blah. They usually give you like a structure, you know? So I feel like with them it's a lot easier and they have funding and all this. But when you're by yourself, it's kind of like you're your own manager and you kind of have to like figure everything out. For me, I work with alongside my brother who helps me produce my songs. It's very helpful that I do, because if I was just on my own, it'd be a lot harder because I'd have to be doing more research into everything. But for me, I feel like I kind of, just have to make my own schedule. So I feel like that's usually really hard for like anybody, but I usually will like, because sometimes also songwriting just comes to me randomly. Like I'll think of like a melody and be like, oh, this would be great. But if I'm working with my brother, sometimes he'll just be like making a beat and he'll be like, put something on this, what can you do it? And then a lot of the time it's how our process goes now. So I've been trying to just get into like every genre. That's kind of my goal. I want to just be able to like do anything. I don't want to be set to like a certain thing. Yeah, I feel like sometimes it's really just depends. It could be all over the place, but once I have structure, it's good.
What's your favorite part of making a song?
It depends. Like I can already like have something in mind with lyrics and I'll be like, oh, I want to do that. And then there's some times where I'll just like make a melody into my head. I'm like, oh, this is going to sound really good if once I put lyrics on it. I feel like that's the most like fun part about making it, is when you make that melody actually have like lyrics on top of it and it sounds really good and it's executed the way you wanted it to sound. I feel like that's the best part, honestly. Like being able to execute something the exact way you like planned in your head, that's always really fun.
How has your mindset with music creation changed, if at all, since beginning to now?
I feel like it changed a lot, because at the time I thought, oh, maybe I should only just make these softer songs, and like the artists I listen to is I feel like a lot more different than to what I make. But now I kind of like surround myself with artists that I want to like make music kind of inspired by, because I would listen to a lot of like softer artists like Lizzie McAlpine and like Gracie Abrams, and like a lot of just more softer, like in my room, like chill bedroom. So a lot of the time I would think, oh, maybe I should just make music that's softer, more fitting, like play it safe, I guess. I feel like that's the word I would use. I was trying to be a lot more like safe, and then my brothers helped me break out of this like, no, you can do so much more, like why stick to one genre? And that's helped me a lot. So that's why when I made I Hate You, that was like the biggest like thing that was different to me. I've just expanded more and it's been good.
There's gaps in your music releases. You kind of talked about that, but what keeps you coming back to create more?
During my first project, like that was when I was young. I had my project called Journal. That was when I was like 14. That was my first everything I did. It was I think that was very personal. And then I took more time, like a gap between that, to like grow and like, okay, let me figure out what else I want to do. Because I think that project at the time was more like, oh, I can make something, let me make something. And then the more and more I like studied music and I wanted to like find out what I wanted, I needed like those couple of years to like figure that out. And then I dropped my project with my brother, which that one was a lot better in my opinion to my previous one, and it felt more like, oh, I feel really connected to this music. I feel like I really just needed those like time gaps to figure out what I wanted. So like now I really know like the new things that I'm creating, that it's really me and I have an image I want over it as well. Because at the time I was kind of just making, didn't know what I was doing it for, but now I just have like built this image of myself, which was good. And also because I am like now an adult, I've given me a lot of time compared to when I was like a teenager to know what I want to do. I think the gaps have been really helpful for me, and now that I've had the time and the growth to like do all of this. I now know what I want. So everything now will be more like intentional and figured out.
Do you have anything you would have told your younger self who was kind of just doing, like, not really sure what it was for? Do you think that gap was 100% necessary, or do you think if you had the guidance then it would have kind of been the same result now?
I definitely think the gap was necessary. Maybe at the time I thought, oh, why am I not just like pumping out things now? I think I wanted to rush because I thought there was a certain like time frame you have. I feel like everyone when they're younger, you're told like you're supposed to know everything at a certain age, like by the time you're 18, which is never true. But at the time it feels like it, and you feel like there's so much you have to get done before you're an adult. Now I know that, but at the time I definitely would not have known that. So if I would tell my younger self like to slow down and figure things out, and there's no rush for like any of that.
What are your long-term goals and hopes with music? Do you hope to do it as a full-time career, or is it something you only want to keep as a hobby most of the time?
For me, I've always wanted music to be my full-time thing. It's just obviously like such a process to do things, because I know music is one of the hardest things to like, to get something to come back from, like get income basically from, like unless you're signed or like you get huge. But it's not like impossible. It's just I just have to keep being consistent at it. But I've always wanted it to be my full-time thing for sure. But in the meantime, I obviously need to like have more other creative outlooks. Like that's for me how I feel, and that's why I started like streaming. I think a lot of people assume that's what I want to be my full-time is streaming, but that's more of like just a community thing I want to build and like putting myself out there. Music's for sure always been something I wanted to be full-time.
When you have a song in the works, what is the thought process to when it's almost released? Like, are you super confident in your work all the time, or do you think there's a lot of nerves? Like, what's the thought process?
Actually, with like my most recent song, I dropped it like 2 years after I made it. So
okay.
So I definitely will make something, and sometimes I'm not ready for it to like drop, or it's not like I don't have anything to back it up with. So I feel like with the delay of I Hate You was really good for me to figure out, do I want the song to be first or this other thing? Because I've been making a bunch of things, and then the order of it is very important to me. So yeah, I feel like most of the songs I am making, I'm pretty confident with it in terms of like when it released. Like I said, like sometimes I'm just not ready for it to come out, or I don't, again, it's just like the backup to it. Like I Hate You now was a good time for it to drop, especially with how music has evolved. I feel like it fit the time now more than when I had originally made it. That was kind of the timing of it. It's like, I don't know when I'm going to release this. And that was also when I was just experimenting. So I wasn't sure if I was going to stick to this or it was going to be a one-time thing. I'm really glad that I made it and I stuck to it. I'm sure this is different from so many other people as well, but there's never like a certain time I feel like you have to release something. I feel like you can make something, you can keep working on it or workshop it, but I'm definitely a lot more confident with with what I'm working with and what I'm releasing now.
Would you say you're like a perfectionist almost? Because you mentioned I Hate You, you waited 2 years to release. In that time span, was there like a lot of changes you want to make, or was it kind of the same all the way through?
I don't think there was too many changes to the actual song, but it was more so of like the video, because we didn't film the video till like that was more recent to the release. But it was kind of like, what are we gonna put with this? Because again, I didn't know what I wanted my artistry to look like. I didn't know what I wanted this to be attached to the song. I would say I am slightly a perfectionist. I wouldn't say like as crazy as I could be.
What type of music enjoyers do you think would enjoy your stuff the most, considering like, you kind of mentioned having so many different styles you want to pursue, or so many different things that you like?
I feel like I don't even know, but I feel like I've involved myself around like other smaller artists recently, and I've been getting into other people who just experiment too, and I think that's great. So I feel like anybody who likes people who experiment will really like my type of music. I feel just anyone who loves like an authentic artist and not someone who's just doing it just to do it, I guess.
Do you have any advice for fellow aspiring musicians?
The first thing that comes to my mind is just like do it. Whatever you want to do, just do it. And even if you feel like it's gonna take too long, I need all this, like you don't need a bunch of like crazy expensive like equipment. You don't need to like go to studios. Honestly, you can just start on GarageBand. Like I feel like every artist has started somewhere like small, and any program that they can, anything that they have access to. There's a lot of huge artists now that have started in a small like space, like they've recorded in their closets, because people think you need like a studio. You really don't. I started like recording in a closet too, honestly, and then eventually when you can afford getting like more equipment like mics and like keyboard and things like that, like work your way up to it. it's gonna be like a lot more worth it and you're gonna have a lot more like experience behind it. So I feel like whatever you like, honestly, it sounds like anyone could say that, but whatever you set your heart to, you really can do it. And I've only learned that now because I've come so far from how I started. So I definitely feel like if you really want to just make music, you can. And you don't have to be an amazing singer and you don't have to be like the craziest like at instruments either. You kind of, but you know what you want. It's gonna like happen for you either way. Just have fun.
Do you have any last words that you want to say, and where can people find you?
I have a lot more things that are yet to come out very soon. Have just posted that I'm releasing a song the 6th of March. I don't know when this is releasing. You can catch me on Twitch Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays as cillyduck, or you can also just check out my socials and stuff where my Instagram is okcilla and most of my other handles are also okcilla. You can find everything there, honestly.